السلام عليكم طلاب الماستر، شكرا جزيلا حضوركم اليوم. Today we'll talk about mixed method research. Why we need to understand or why we need to have an idea about this methodology. This is methodology lectures more than therapeutics, but really it's essential for you as master students because eventually you may need it in your dissertations. So from the title, it's mixed method. That means we have more than one methodology combined in one research. In general, before you write on the mixed method, the acronym for mixed method will be MMR, mixed method research. So in general, people are not aware about mixed method. So when you write something, you use mixed method, you need to justify why we use this mixed method and which type of mixed method, and you need to make it clear for people or for audience why you use it, which kind of design you use, and which component, which one is bigger, which one is the first phase, are they concomitant or they are parallel or they are sequential. So there are two phases or two methods, either they are parallel or they are sequential. You need to define everything in the methodology for your audience. So the mixed method, it's combination of qualitative, quantitative. As you know, in Iraq, mostly we deal with quantitative, with numbers, with statistical analysis. So qualitative is really kind of, it's newly introduced to our college, and we have so far one qualitative thesis defended last semester by one of my master students. But mixed method, it's not only qualitative, it's qualitative plus quantitative. I think you are familiar with the quantitative. We need numbers, we need statistical analysis. Qualitative, we don't have numbers, we usually deal with words. We deal with themes. So I think when we talk about mixed method, half of the method is qualitative. Do you have an idea about qualitative design? Have you taken? No or yes? Qualitative. My question is, do you have an experience or someone gave you lectures about qualitative? No. So it's really fair subject for you, I know. So the challenge is now you need to understand the qualitative before we go to the mixed method. But for today, for the sake of time, we will go over the qualitative quickly, and hopefully in the next coming weeks we can discuss the qualitative in more depth because it's really independent methods. As we mentioned, we have mixed method. Those mixed method, does it mean they are mixed in a random way? There are two methodologies. We need to integrate them carefully. Do we need to integrate them in the method section? Do we need to integrate, we call it point of integration. Do we need to integrate them in the results? Or do we need to integrate them in the discussion? The most common one I prefer, the point of integration is we need to integrate them at the discussion. So we can have two methodologies, we have two analyses, we have two types of results, but when we need to discuss, we need to see if they are agreed on the same findings. So the point of integration that I prefer mostly is the discussion session. So as you can see, qualitative, quantitative. So we can use this term or use the small case letters. Before we go to the mixed method, I think you are familiar with the quantitative. Now I will give you some brief about qualitative. Qualitatives may come from different sources. The most common sources, one-to-one interview. Interview could be in person, could be over phone, could be over Zoom, virtual. Focus group. Focus group means, do you know what do you mean by focus group? Focus group. I know it's a group. It's interview groups. That means you now, like I have here 10 people in the room. So the focus group may include 5 to 12 person. We interview them at the same time. What's the difference between focus group and one-to-one interview? Why we need the focus group? Like, how can we get this information? Like, why some people or some researchers, they prefer focus group over one-to-one interview? One-to-one interview, we have no discussion with other people. For example, now you are 10 people in the room. In the focus group, when Zahra says something, Ruqayya may have some comments about it. So it's interaction between the participants. So not only I have one person here, he talks and I listen. The interviewee talks and the interviewer listens. But in the focus group, we may have interaction between the participant themselves. So this can give me like rich environment or rich data, as if we talked about, for example, the challenges facing community pharmacy, the challenges facing hospital pharmacists in Iraq. So we will have different view, we will have feedback. So keep in mind, we can have one-to-one interview, we can have focus group, we can have open-ended question from any survey. We can analyze it in a qualitative way, or recording, or case, observation. For example, I'm looking at you now and I have taken notes. So my notes can be qualitative notes. I describe, you are tired, we are in the second day of Ramadan, and you are exhausted. Some of you like travel 100 kilometers, so you are tired. I can write this in my description. This is a qualitative part. So it's a description, I have no numbers. I just say you are sleepy, you are tired, you are thirsty. You know, this is the description. This is qualitative description. So observation also, it's one source of qualitative. In general, the most common one, I said one-to-one interview. It could be in person, it could be over phone, it could be virtual. But we have 3 types of interviews. We have structured interview, semi-structured, and unstructured. Structured is mostly the survey. If you have fixed questions and you ask your participant to answer them without any follow-up question. So it's fixed. We have no flexibility to ask follow-up question. We usually prefer semi-structure because the interviewer, we will have flexibility to ask follow-up questions in case of you answer yes, I like this one. I say, why you do you like it? Do you need, I need more details. Unstructured, when the interviewer come without any question, or they can tell you, you are the interviewee, I'm the interviewer. I will tell you, Zaid, talk about your roles in the Iraqi syndicate of pharmacy syndicate. So you will talk. I don't have any previous questions. I don't have organized questions. It's open for you as interviewee. So we usually prefer semi-structure because we will have questions, but we can go around the questions. So in general, this is the most preferable one in general for the one-to-one interviews. So you need to ask yourself, as I mentioned, we are talking now about the qualitative phase. So these tools can be used in the qualitative phase. Keep in mind, you are familiar with the quantitative. Quantitative, you can go and do chart extraction, you can go and do clinical trials, You can go and do survey. Those are quantitative. But when it comes to the qualitative, we have different method of data collection. One of them is the interviews. So before you get started, you need to understand how many interviews I will have. What about the time of the interview? So what is the interview protocol? You need to prepare questions. We call it interview protocol. So when we stop to collect data, the point called saturation point. Saturation point, the saturation may happen after 5 participants, could happen after 20. It depends. Saturation means we will stop data collection when we have point with no new data. I interviewed the first one, the first participant, second, third, and the third, I realized there is no new information over the second one. So I may do the fourth, same information, I will stop. But if every time I'll get new information, I will keep doing the interviews until I reach the saturation point. So it varies according to the topic, according to the participant. Basic interviews, when you go to the interview, you need to prepare yourself. You need to be familiar with the topic. You need to deal professionally. Keep in mind, we need to, because it's qualitative and most journals, most methodologies require the recording, audio recording. Sometimes this sensitive issue, the participant may have some concern about the audio recording. So you need to assure your participant it's confidential. It's better to de-identify them so you don't ask their names in the interviews, and we don't need their names usually. So make sure it's comfortable to be recorded. Otherwise, it's big limitation. The journals will ask you if you don't have recording. This is a serious limitation, and I'm facing this in one of the my previous master student. She had some participant. They disagreed about them or rejected them or denied the recording. Eventually, we are facing real challenges. In addition to recording, you need to prepare papers or notebook to have notes. The most important one, you deal with participant. You need to be impartial, not unbiased. You need to deal with them professionally. Don't try to lead them to the questions. Be impartial, unbiased. So always you need to be not in one side or the other. Just listen. Don't interrupt them unless they go outside the topic. Try to listen carefully and show them you are listening. Have some eye contacts, you may have this. And before that, we need to have consent. It depends. You may have written consent or verbal consent. It depends on the risk. Focus group, when we have more than one participant, usually from 5 to 12, it depends on the topic. The good things about the focus group, people will talk normally, encourage them to discuss, no limitations. You will listen to the discussion between the members. So in general, in the focus group, after we recruit people, participant, choose moderator, the person who is taking the notes, we call it, or dealing with the focus group, called moderator. We need to record the meeting, write clear discussion guideline, conduct session and generate reports, use the data. Make sure your recording should be transcribed. What do you mean by transcribed? We need to convert the audio to words, because eventually we need the words in our report. So I know you will use your note, but make sure the recording transcribed to words so we can use these words in our data analysis. So for the interview, we have some simple tips for you. You need to have a digital or audio recorder. You need to have charger, microphones, lots of paper, water. Those are practical things. And don't feed this is very important. Don't feed the respondent answer. Don't say, yes, I agree with you. Yes, it's really. Please let them talk and don't feed them the answers. And don't use, your face should be neutral. Your face expression should be neutral because your face expression may affect the response. So in general, be careful. Before you get you turn on the recording, you need to take the consent of the recording. So my structure, it's we need open-ended questions. It's interview, not survey. We need to avoid closed-ended question. Open-ended question can be triggered. How do you think? It's not, do you agree or not? The difference is, you don't ask them, do you agree or not? You need to ask, how do you feel? What do you think? Tell me about your time when you are in the undergrad school. Describe your interaction with patients. Describe. What do you attribute this experience with the doctors? What might be example of what you are describing? So these are open-ended questions. This will trigger people or interviewee to talk. It's not yes, and if you ask them, do you agree or not? They would say, agree, and they will stop. Do you like or not? I like it. They will stop. Tell me more. Describe. What do you feel? What do you think? How? In-depth interviewing. The interviews, why we like qualitative? I think the major concern about qualitative, we'll talk about this in the next lecture, is the generalization. Because in the qualitative, we don't deal with large number. We deal with a small number of participants, but we will go in depth. In depth, that means we talk 30 to 60 minutes, for example, with the participant. We will know the root of the problem. It's better than send them survey. Sometimes it's not helpful. If the problem is new and we have no idea about it, so it's not easy to send them survey and they will ask closed-ended questions. We need to know the roots of the problem, the perception. That's we call it in-depth. Learn. So the difference here, we are not making generalization. We are going in-depth, but small number of participants. So it's less generalizable compared to the quantitative. But usually we have thickness or in-depth information. I borrowed some slide from my course at the University of Iowa, at the College of Public Health, about the interviews. I took this course also at the College of Public Health. We call it Communicating with Community. Question help begin the interview. You need to open question, facilitate free discussions. So at the beginning, try to smile, to try assure your participant everything will be fine, and don't start with sensitive questions. Don't start with sensitive questions. Open question help elaborate and enrich interview. We're always looking for open-ended questions. Question help bring out concrete specific of interview word. So we need to prepare ourselves to ask the questions. Sometimes the language barrier may affect their response. We may accept some responses in Arabic and we need to translate them in English. So it depends on if they are healthcare providers. But sometimes you need to think about the language barrier. So we don't expect all healthcare providers in Iraq can speak English fluently. They may need mix and match, some Arabic words. So prepare yourself. Use who what, when, where, how, and why. Avoid closed-ended questions. Questions you should prepare follow-up questions. For example, if you ask them challenges about you are facing in community pharmacy, and one of them they will ask you about the prices or the price sticker. So we will ask them why it's a problem. They will talk about nobody will stick with those stickers. We have those stickers are not required. Some pharmacies they sell below the stickers. So this kind of information we are trigger people to talk about them. So not just say I don't like them, they are not effective. I need to say why they are not effective. Why do you think that they don't solve the problem? So ask them follow-up questions and prepare yourself and be sensitive. If you are talking about one from different culture, especially if you are studying abroad, you will have different cultures. Even here, we have, could be couple of, people, they have different culture. So be careful about the culture, cross-culture situation. Question can be used to monitor and comfort and pace of open-ended and more communication. So please don't interrupt them unless they go outside the topic. Try to listen. You are interviewer. Try to listen more than talking. The interviewee should talk and interviewer listen and ask questions, and we try to control the interview. We can't control the time, we can't control the answer. Before going in depth about which type of sampling we need to use, just a quick reminder, I think this slide already presented in my last lecture in the quantitative analysis, but we have different way of sampling in qualitative compared to quantitative. Quantitative, we may use, for example, randomization. But in the qualitative, the most common one could be, we call it purposive sampling or snowballing sampling. So just a quick reminder, probability sampling, we deal with randomization. We have simple randomization, systemic sampling, stratified, and cluster. For the non-probability, convenience sampling, judgment called purposive. This is the one we are going to use mostly. Purposive, sometimes we use snowballing, or convenience, but in general, purposive is the most common one. What do you mean by quota sampling? Quota, we have, not quota, we have to have some few from the genders, balance in the age, balance in the gender, balance in the education, balance in the geographical area. What do you mean by cluster sampling? The sampling according to the setting. Medical city is setting, Kindi is the other setting. This one, stratified, we need to have sampling within each strata. Because, if, for example, if we have undergrad student, we have, for example, 80 female and 20 male. If we do randomization, those 20 male, we may have 15 of them in one group, and we will have imbalance. So we need to do randomization within the male strata and randomization within the female strata. So we'll have balanced group in terms of gender. Simply, convenience, that means the people I can reach, the first people they are willing to participate. We don't like exert too much efforts, but the one we can reach, we include them or recruit them. So it's the easier one, but usually it's a limitation. It's a limitation you must or study. Voluntary response one, it's similar to the convenience. This is the one purposive sample I'm talking about in the why we need to use purposive sampling and the qualitative. Can someone tell me? What do you mean by purposive?
We are looking for a certain purpose.
Exactly. We need to choose the most expert people in the field. For example, I need someone answer my questions about oncology medicine. I need to choose oncologists who had long experience in the field. I don't go to endocrinologists. I don't go to people working in the respiratory or other fields. It's purposive. It's selective. It's judgmental. I believe Dr. Dia is the expert. He can review my survey. So I'm looking for expert to do my content or face validity. So it's purposefully selective. So it's not randomly, it's not convenience, it's purposive. Snowballing, it's similar to the snowball. When it becomes small, then it becomes bigger. So we usually, when we recruit one patient, pharmacist or healthcare provider, whatever, ask them, do you have colleagues who do you think can have similar experience with yours and may agree to participate? They will say, see Dr. X, see Dr. Y. So one participant may lead you to other ones. So selective, it's selective. As you can see, the hand took one person. So probability sampling, it's for quantitative. Purposive sampling for qualitative. Its ability to go in depth and topic transferability. We need to have experience of this person, so we need to select this person purposefully. Again, purposive sample, those are women and people in the black color. We selected them. It's judgmental, it's selective, it's not probability sampling. Now, let's talk about qualitative data analysis. We need to list them at least before, as I mentioned, I will not go deeper this lecture about qualitative, but hopefully in the next coming weeks. Content analysis, the simple one, we count how many times our participant mentioned this term. So it's number of times this term mentioned or this phrase. Narrative analysis, discourse analysis, thematic analysis, grand theory. Grand theory, it's very open. It's very open. Thematic, I need to just remind you, we have, what's the difference between qualitative and quantitative? In the quantitative, we need to prove, in the quantitative, we need to test the theory. We have theory, we need to test it on large number of participants to see if this theory is can help us to explain the situation. For example, health belief model. We already have theory, we need to test it. We use health belief model in our survey with Dr. Besme about people acceptance of COVID-19 vaccine. And yesterday we got good news. It's one of the most cited article in 2021 and the Evaluation Journal of Clinical Practice. It's belong Whaley publisher. So if we have theory, we need to test it, we go for quantitative. But if we need to generate theory or develop theory, we don't have information before, we use qualitative. So qualitative called inductive, while the quantitative called detective. And all this information available in the textbooks. I already gave it to you. This chapter is essential to understand the theory behind what's the difference between quantitative and qualitative. And this lecture is really short to include all this information because, as I mentioned before, mixed method is the course. I took this a whole course at the University of Iowa, at the College of Education, while here we have only a couple hours to cover this material, so we cannot cover everything. So please go to the chapter for more details. It's very helpful for your study. Thematic analysis, I think it's the most common one. We deal with the data, we need to develop themes. Themes, that mean people agreed on something. We need to categorize their information, categorize their perception into themes. We need to give broad themes. Sometimes we give sub-theme. I will give a couple of examples about this. So content analysis dealing with numbers. People talked. We use some software, or we can use, usually you have two options in qualitative. The old-fashioned school, if you have small number of participants, you can use manual extraction of data. For example, I use this in my studies. We have fairly large number of participants. We have 35 physicians, 25. I think 60 is large number. 60 is really large number in the qualitative, because I remember during the proposal defense, one of the committee members asked her, why don't collect 200? So qualitative is not about the large number of patients. It's very hard to do interviews with large number, because this work needs a lot of efforts. We need to transcribe the recording, to transcribe them into words. Then we need to read the words again and again and again, and coding them, try to find themes. It's really time consuming. The qualitative study is time consuming. So it's impossible to deal with large number of participants. We usually deal with tens in maximum. So it's not like the quantitative. In general, ground theory, this course, the thematic analysis, we deal with the real qualitative analysis. And this one, we still have numbers, number of phrases, but here we don't deal with numbers. I remember one of the defense committee, he say, where's the analysis? I cannot find the chi-square in your thesis. I think she answered him, because this is a qualitative thesis, this is a qualitative study, we don't have numbers, we don't have statistical analysis as we are all aware of. Content analysis, we usually specify the number of phrases, words, phrases, ideas, the count, how many times this word repeated, how many times this phrase repeated. This is content. While in the thematic analysis, we deal with themes. You have two options in your analysis. Because it's very complicated and needs extensive work, you have the option either do it by yourself using Excel sheet. You always do it by yourself, but I mean either do it manually or use software. Software may help you to find similar or comparable themes or text. So some software, I think one of them is Deduce, we will mention here. Keep in mind, thematic analysis, we have qualitative data, we have text. We need to code. What do you mean by code? Give it one word or couple words. For example, challenges of community pharmacy. If someone say pricing, so pricing is code. Okay? Then after we combine those kind codes, convert them to general themes. Themes, for example, problem in the pricing. If we need to go sub-theme, for example, pharmacists don't stick with the price. Prices are unrealistic. Prices are not available on all medicine. Prices are not available on non-registered medicine. So we have big theme, which is the pricing. Under pricing, we will have some themes. We call it like those sub-themes, those other like reasons get behind this big theme, which is the pricing. This is just example. So we usually have coding, and we end up with, you need to read your text thoroughly again and again and give codes. You can do it by yourself, handwritten, you can do it by Excel. You can highlight in different colors, All people agreed, say pricing, I will give them highlight in yellow. So eventually I look at the yellow color, I find how many people agreed on the pricing. Thematic analysis, we need to summarize the qualitative data into themes and sub-themes. I will give you some example. We have theme, sub-theme. We need to give example from the participant. So here we don't have numbers, but what's the basic component of our analysis? We support our answer by participant quotation. For example, Zahra said, nobody stick with the price sticker. I will take this term, phrase, or sentence, and usually I don't say Zahra, I'll give her number. So I said, participant pharmacist number 5. I will give the description for Zahra. She is graduated. She has 5 years experience. She works as a hospital pharmacist and female. So A5, Zahra, at the end of the sentence, I will mention she said, nobody or pharmacist don't stick with price sticker. So it's quotation. I use her to support my theme. Because someone will ask me, from where did you get your theme? I will say, I have this quotation. This quotation. Ruqayya also give me different one. Say about the price. Okay? So those quotations will help me to support my answer. In general, content analysis, at the end, we need to count the number of times that coding unit appears. How many times the pricing repeated in our text. It's the same process of the thematic. We need to have the data, we need to read them carefully, we need to have coding. All these steps are common between the content and thematic analysis, but at the end, here we will generate numbers of phrases or codes. At the thematic, we will generate themes. So these are the difference between the thematic and content analysis. Just recap, in qualitative, we don't have numbers, we have text. Our data are our comments, our participant comments, our participant sentences. It could be sentence, it could be phrase. It doesn't have to be complete sentence with verb, subject, verb, and others. It could be phrase. Read and reread text. Sometimes we may need to do this. Two participants read the same scripts independently. Sometimes they work together. Identify unit of data within text. Do you need to give each paragraph code, or do you need to give each sentence code? It depends. If you have a large number of data, you may give each paragraph code. It depends. You may deal with sentence, you may deal with the phrases. Always assign code. One exercise when I was at the University of Iowa, they gave us like a paper and they gave us script paragraphs, and here in this side of the paper we will say the code of this sentence, pricing. Other challenges of community pharmacy, for example, the falsified medicine. So this is the code. And this code, we can use it again and again. Even the terms, the participants use different terms. Someone say it's fake medicine. Some people say it's not registered. Someone say it's illegal. Someone say it's non-official, not tested. They mean the same thing. They are either falsified substandard medicine. Open coding, we have two options in the qualitative. I prefer grounded theory. What do you mean by grounded theory? We come with no pre-assumption. I come to your answer without theoretical models. That means I have no previous judgment. I will deal with your analysis and I will come with themes, rely solely on your answer. Sometimes I come with theoretical background. For example, before I do the qualitative analysis, I say I will use ecological model. Ecological model deal with the problem in different levels. For example, the smoking. Deal with the smoking at society level. Do the government apply tax on smoking? Give at community level. Do we have areas, no smoking areas? Deal at organization level. Do we have at our university no smoking requirement? Deal at the interpersonal level, like within the department, no smoking. Do we have personal level, my family, for example, or so different levels. So when I come to analysis, I need to categorize your answer according to those levels. So we use ecological model at the University of Iowa when I was part of the Dr. Mary Ray project. We deal with the social isolation among the healthcare students. So I come up with this idea. I say, Dr. Mary, let's use ecological model because we need to understand why students feel socially isolated. Is it at society level? Is it organization? Society level, for example, nationwide or state level. Community level, organization level, university level. Interpersonal, the support of the faculty. Interpersonal, the support of the family. Personal level, I'm international student, I feel different. I'm mom for kids, I feel different. I'm an Asian student, I feel different. So the differences could be at different level. And we use it, we didn't use ground theory, but we used this ecological model to categorize our code or themes. So it's already predetermined theoretical model. You have two options. Either you come with one, but usually people have no idea about your answer. This is the good thing. This is the beauty of the qualitative. Don't come with the pre-assumption with a theoretical model. Just listen to your audience. And you will come up with theory then after you, for example, in my study about the falsified medicine. It was complicated. It's really complicated issue. So I decided with my colleagues to go and interview the scientific bureau and other pharmaceutical company representatives before we come up with survey. So we interviewed